at you again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at Elden Ring, and we're just going to be going over some fundamentals, things that new players to FromSoftware may not know, potentially some things that other players just may have forgotten about. I am planning to make a little bit of a series with this, but it'll just kind of go over basics, things for each area to keep in mind, stuff like that. But with that, let's get right into it. As you can see, we're going to be using a new character to demonstrate a lot of the talking points in this. First and foremost, as you can see, bottom left, you'll usually have whatever your controls are displayed. I'm on PlayStation, so as you can see, PlayStation controls. If you hit Show Attributes, you can see what each character starts with. This is mostly just kind of what type of build you want to go with. If you want to be mage, you would go with, astrologer probably, because they start with the ability to use some spells. They have a staff right off rip. Number one would have been the prisoner, potentially. You can just kind of see what they want to do. If you don't know what any of the stats are and you're trying to figure that out, a neat thing that the game doesn't tell you about is that if you just hit the help button, which for me is the touchpad, you can hit explanation, and it'll hover over whatever stat you want it to, and it'll tell you what they do. So real quick, we'll just go over that. Your level is your level, and it's basically, you get it using the same thing that you use for currency, which is ruins. You get those from killing enemies, bosses, and some consumables. Vigor governs HP, affects fire, resistance, and immunity. Mind, attribute that determines FP, also affects focus. You can see what those are once we get into the game. Attribute governing stamina, also affects robustness. This attribute also determines how heavy your equipment can be. Basically, that's just how much you can carry, and your stamina bar, which is very important in this game. Attribute required to wield heavy armaments. Also boosts the attack power, strength scaling armaments, and affects your physical defense. Dexterity attribute required to wield advanced armaments. And it's basically saying things that take skill to use, quote unquote. So like katanas, rapiers, even great swords are kind of like both strength and dex, but they usually lean a little bit more towards strength, usually. But dex is really useful because it also just reduces the casting time of spells. I wouldn't really focus too much on the softens fall damage. There's an item that helps with that a lot more. And I wouldn't really worry about that makes it harder to be knocked off your horse either. Neat little bonuses, but not really game-changing. Intelligence is your magic damage in general, and also your magic resistance. Your resistance is you'll focus more though just on by armor sets and talismans. So, faith is for incantations. Basically anything that's holy. Arcane is used to boost your discovery, it says, but it also, what it doesn't tell you here is that it scales with most of your blood and other status ailments like poison or rot. So Arcane is also in itself kind of an own build. You'll see a lot of Arcane decks, a lot of Arcane, maybe Int, because there's some Int or Faith-based spells that go with Arcane. But yeah, with that, for the sake of the tutorial, we're just going to pick Vagabond because he has a shield. And he also starts with a decent loadout for me to explain a few things. We're just going to name him Turt. Keepsake. A lot of these don't really matter. You'll be able to get them in the game. I usually just start with either Golden Seed or it'd be Lands Between Ruin to get a jump start on levels. It's kind of up to you on what you'd prefer. I am going to go with the Golden Seed. Not going to worry about customizing them. There's a whole character creator. You can make your guys goofy, silly, however you want. But with that, we're here. Uh, for me, it is the options button, but whatever button pulls up this menu for you, respectively. This is your main menu. You're going to come here to adjust a lot of your settings, everything else. Something else to keep in mind is that when you open up stuff, it'll display a lot of tutorials if you have them turned on. It'll try to kind of show you how to see all that stuff. We're just going to speed through that a little bit. As you can see, this is my recent items tab. I don't believe that this was initially in the game. I believe it's something that they added later on. As you can see, we can just kind of see our items tab through using our bumpers, or our L1, R1, whichever term you prefer. I'm sure on PC it would just be mouse click. Down at the bottom, you'll see all your controls to cycle your information. So you have switch display mid, switch display right. This is useful for when you're looking, at item descriptions, like right here. It says, when the Elden ring was shattered, these seeds flew from the Erd tree, scattering across the various lands, as if life itself knew that its end had come. Get a bit of lore. Pretty neat. Yeah. What we're going to start with is looking at our equipment. So, as you can see, Vagabond starts with a halberd and a longsword. Once again, we're going to use the help menu because it comes in helpful. You can hit explanation. It'll go through, kind of show you what's in each area. Damage types matter in the sense of every weapon will do standard, pierce, strike, and from the looks of it, slash. There's obviously pure magic damage, fire, lightning, holy as well, that you can do. But they will ultimately still have a way that they inflict damage with said weapon. You'll encounter enemies later on that that'll matter more for. Not going to spend too much time on it. Over here, you can go through each of your stats again, see what they do. But we're going to focus on this one here, equip load. You can see that it's the total weight of equipped armaments and armor. Movement slows as load increases. The rightmost number is the maximum weight that can be equipped. Exceed it and movement slows dramatically. So as you can see, our equip load over there says 38.8 out of 49.8. Heavy load. Now that's because we have two weapons equipped. So if I go to roll, using my circle button, I believe on PlayStation that would be B. On PlayStation, on Xbox. This is your map. For me it was my touchpad. I imagine on Xbox it would be select, or be equivalent. We're going to go ahead and de-equip that halberd. You see that it drops us to a medium load. When I go to roll now, I actually have a proper roll. I can take it a step further. Drop down to a light load if I wanted to. And you actually roll really, really far, comparatively. That matters because the lighter your load is, the better your roll is, and the better your roll is, the more iframes you have, which is invincibility frames. Basically, there's a period during your roll that you're completely immune to damage. No matter what's coming at you during your roll, you won't take damage for a certain time. It's pretty small, but it is definitely good to learn how to roll through a lot of enemies' attacks. I'll demonstrate that later. We're going to go ahead and move on. Left stick is to move, right stick is for camera. You can see it popped up there. You should be getting a lot of tutorial stuff. You'll also be able to see other player messages. If you click and hold the run button, the dodge button, circle or B, when you click and hold it, that's how you sprint. So we're right here in front of the grafted scion. This is your tutorial boss. You'll be forced to fight him. We're gonna go over controls real brief. So first off, you can two-hand a weapon, or two-hand your shield, or whatever's in your left hand. By clicking and holding triangle, you'll know that you've done it correct, because the bottom left menu will change. And then you just hit either bumper or L1, R1 to swap to that respective hand and two-hand. This comes in because you can two-hand a weapon, use your R1s, or you can one-hand a weapon and use your R1s. For a lot of weapons, it'll change up their moveset. That's an R2, which you can kind of chain them together if you time it right. You can also charge your R2s, and they hit a bit harder. And you can charge them in a combo, provided you have the stamina. Shields, most of them, will either have parry, no skill, or they'll have shield smash, I think it's called. Basically, you'll find it mostly on great shields. It's basically you just ram people with your shield. But if we go into our help menu, you can see parry, but we can also see our sword has one called square off. We'll get into that a bit later. I'll demonstrate it. Yeah, everything in the game has a skill associated with it, even our help. And this will usually be your first playthrough. It'll help determine what you do or don't like. Yeah, and with that, we're just gonna move on. The only other thing control-wise is that when you have an opponent, as we're about to, you can hit your right stick or R3 to lock on. Now, advanced tips are to get good without having lock on, because it allows you to move a lot more directly. But as a gamer dad, I don't really have a lot to try to do that as much. And lock on is usually okay, but you're going to find specific enemies that you do better without it. As you can see, we're kind of just getting beat up. You're supposed to die here. I'm going to try to bait his combo to demonstrate how the shield works. As you can see, when I shield the hit, I'm not taking any damage, but I am losing stamina. Now that will change depending on what shield you have and what type of damage negation it is. We'll explain a bit more. Right there you see I rolled and avoided all the damage from that attack. We're going to try to get another roll in, but there's a good chance I'll miss. Yeah. That's why rolls are important, because you can outright deny damage provided you know the enemy's patterns. We are here in what I call tutorial cave. This note tells you about the Cave of Knowledge, which is your tutorial area, where we're going to be doing a lot of demonstrating and explaining the rest of our basics that we're going to go over. So, first and foremost, I'm going to explain why we don't take damage against the enemy when we're shielding. So, over here you'll see guarded damage negation. What this is the type of damage negations that your shield has, in the sense that 100 physical, like it says here, means that as long as there's no magic, fire, lightning, holy going into the attack that's hitting the shield, no damage will get through provided you have the stamina to block the hit. Now, if he had progressed to his, we'll call it second phase, he would have buffed his weapons with Holy, and he would have gotten through the shield. You can also see attack power, even a shield has it. Basically just shows what type of damage it would do if you were to use it as a weapon, which, yes, you can use shields as a weapon if you wanted to. The DLC actually has 2 shields specifically that are really useful for it. But, we're going to look at the sword and explain what it does, all these stats. So physical is obviously just physical, you get the gist with the other ones, but what critical is if you pull off a parry, a backstab, or any kind of visceral, really, critical essentially is the multiplier of your base damage going into that critical. A lot of weapons will just have it at 100. Occasionally you'll find a weapon that has even lower than 100. Not very often, I don't think. But for the most part, you're going to see daggers and smaller weapons like that have higher criticals because they want you to kind of, be a thief, be backstabby, get those viscerals, parries. You can see here, it says attribute scaling. This determines how much the weapon goes off of your stats. So you can see here that it has a D in strength and a D in dex. What this means is that it looks at both strength and dexterity, our levels, to determine the number that is added to that 110. To simplify, if you see it scales with some attribute and it's higher up letter-wise, like let's say it has an A or an S, because S is the highest, then you would want to have a high level in that stat. Going from there, let's go on, move down to the cave. We're going to... Right there, it wants you to learn how to swap your items. You have a red flask and a blue flask. Red is health, blue is magic. Magic matters because if we two-hand our weapon here, click and hold triangle and then R1, you can hit L2 to go into the weapon skills. Now, some weapons have a stance, like this sword does, where if I were to hit R1, I do that attack, but if I hit R2, I do that attack. And as you can see, it actually took some of our blue. You can see that we lost some FP. Now, if I were to equip the halberd, you can see it has a completely different moveset. If I click and hold L2, it actually just goes straight into an attack instead of being a stance. So that'll kind of determine also how you want to play around. We're going to go ahead and keep the longsword equipped. This is a grace. These are essentially your checkpoints. When you rest with them, you will replenish health, magic, and you will also be able to turn in golden seeds to increase the amount of flasks that you have. So as you can see, I now have 4 red and 1 blue. I can change them around depending on my needs. I'm just going to leave it how it is. As you can see, later on you'll get sacred tears that increase how much HP and FP you get returned by your flasks. You can also change around your spells here at the Grace. You can deposit items that you're not currently using. And you can also pass the time of day. So, make it morning. Just because why not? Now we'll move on with our... Okay. A lot of goobers leave notes, you know. Funny stuff. But after a while of reading Try Finger Butthole so many times, it gets rough. Now, they want you to see that this guy's just standing here. Clearly he's not aggroed onto me. We can lock onto him. If you get up behind an enemy, and you hit R1, you hit R1, right bumper, light attack, whichever term you prefer. If you hit L2 with a shield, you see how we throw it out. If I time that as soon as his weapon connects with me, we actually do a parry. These guys, it can be a little difficult to time it because of how much they delay it. If you get the parry, you can also essentially do that. But it does a bit more damage, I think, than just a backstab. Now, a common strat that a lot of people will use against human enemies is they'll actually shield. And I usually rotate away from their weapon hand, depending on the enemy. Sometimes it's better to rotate towards. But you can, mid-fight, get behind someone, get the backstab. You don't have to be in stealth. Here, it's trying to teach us how to roll. You can see I literally rolled through the sword and didn't take any damage. But they're just demonstrating how much damage the backstabs and parries actually do, because you can see just a basic R1 not kill him in one hit. You don't have to grab these if you don't want to. It's a row of fruit. You pretty much use it to heal your horse, but your horse also heals when you heal, provided you're riding it, so. Backstab. Terms backstab fishing, I believe, in general. But yeah, we're gonna move on through. I'll demonstrate real quick how effective weapon skills are. See, they also do a lot more damage. You can either roll through arrows or shield them. Most arrows won't do elemental damage until later on in the game. Right there, you can see it's trying to tell us about skills. Can't believe he hit me. Hurt my feelings. Here it's trying to teach you about stealth. If you hit left stick in, you actually do crouch, and stealth is really strong in this game. Because the less enemies you have to fight in the open, the better. The more you can kind of get away with just sneaking up on, taking out enemies one by one before you have to engage the group, the better. Because one of the quickest ways to die in this game is to get surrounded. So you also have a jump attack. So if you jump and hit your right trigger, you'll do a jumping attack. And if you shield and hit R2, you do a counter attack that usually does a lot of poise damage. And if you break someone's poise like that, you can also get a sword. We're going to move on to the Rick Soldier of God boss fight. Yep, right here is teaching us how to use guard counters. See? And then, yeah. Easy peasy. With that, we're going to move on out through this cave. I will see you guys up there. This is a imp statue. If you start with the stone sword key, you can go in here. pretty quickly, but I wouldn't recommend it until later. But there is a couple really good items in there once you know how to get through them. Alright. So we're here at the first step, Grace. Now, this is White Masvare. He's a one of many NPCs that you'll interact with. And he does call you maidenless.
Yes. Come to the left course. Unfortunately, without God, you
But
are
you shouldn't kill him. You should actually, you know, ultimately up to you. RPG, play how you want to play. But if you complete a lot of people's quest lines, they usually have some pretty decent rewards behind them. So I recommend potentially, you know, first time around trying to keep as many of them alive as you can. You know, try to do your quest lines to make upgrading stuff and getting into areas and other such things easier. This is your summoning pool item. It's useful for getting help during boss fights. But now that we're up here, we're going to actually meander behind the tree sentinel down there to that church and talk about kind of the first few things that you can do to get yourself started with. We're here at the Church of Ella, next to my boy Kale. Kale is a pretty important NPC, not that he has a quest line,
You're a I can also
but because
select you're not then.
he
Why
does
I am
start
Carly.
you on quest lines for other people, such as Blythe the Half. But most importantly, he sells the crafting kit and a couple of pods, telescope, you know, useful items in general. I always recommend getting the crafting kit.
Goodbye.
It's kind of central to the
Nice
game
to
in
do
general,
business.
and you'll be using it a lot as you go through. As you can see, when you first get it, you can't craft a lot, but it's still useful to have. This is a smithing stone 1 that lets you actually get your first taste of upgrade, because you can use the smithing table here to upgrade your weapons once you get a second smithing stone 1. So it kind of points you in the direction of upgrading your weapons without really forcing you there. Could be wrong, but Carle might even sell another one.
What
Might
is
being the key word. No. He does not. He does sell some notes, torch, a couple other things. Torch is okay to get early on because it helps with
Goodbye
caves that are
for
dark,
now.
but you'll get a lantern later on that's much better. So, with that, we're going to conclude the video with some basic tips, leaving off here at the Church of Elden. First and foremost, we're going to say, don't be afraid to die. This game is all about dying repeatedly. Like, you know, you see this big dude in armor, you're like, I bet I can take him. You walk up, you're like, oh man, he's lost. And you're like, oh man, I need to take more damage. Oh man, that's rough. I'm doing like no damage. And the next thing you know, he hits you once, you're almost dead. Trying to survive. And you die. See, I barely did any damage. It could melt me. Now, can we kill him? Yes. And if you want to sit here and fight him for a while, more power to you. It is your game. Play it the way you want to play it. But you don't have to keep slamming your head against a brick wall. You can always just grab your runes and run away, find something easier to kill. You know, like this guy. But you can get new stuff. It's nice. Another tip, this icon is your map fragment. You're going to want to go and grab that pretty quickly because it'll actually let you look at the map and identify landmarks. Pretty useful. Another thing I would say is if you do feel like you're doing good damage to a boss, like right there, we were doing damage, but if we'd been doing a little bit better damage and I just felt like, you know, I was too squishy, cough cough, level vigor. Being a glass cannon's cool and all, but it only gets you so far on your first playthrough. It's better to have more vigor, that way you can actually take a hit and practice dodging it. Which brings me to my next point. Let's say I did believe that I dealt good damage to this guy, but I couldn't dodge his attacks to save my life. Right? Now, I wouldn't unequip your stuff, because if you do that, you'll be messing with your load and potentially throwing yourself off. But what I recommend, if you're confident you can kill a boss, but you just need to get better at dodging his stuff, hit left and right on your D-pad, or just have your shield, and do a few attempts where the only thing you do is shield and dodge, and see how long you can hold up. Practice timing your dodges. Eventually, it'll be like second nature. But doing just this instead of focusing on attacking can really help you figure out what timing you actually have. But we're just gonna let them kill us. Remember to take a break. If you're getting frustrated, you're getting mad, it's usually better to take a break, come back the next day, maybe even a half hour to an hour after you eat some food or something, because when you get mad at the game, you start messing up you start messing up more, and when you mess up more, you get madder, and remember, nothing in the game is designed to be unbeatable. It may feel that way, but there is always a way to beat something in this game. Even Millennia, you can look up and see cheese videos for the hardest boss in the game. Which brings me to my last point. Don't feel bad about looking up characters' quests, or if you see an item that looks really cool and you want to know where it's at. Use your own determination of how you want to play the game. Don't let anyone online tell you otherwise, that you're not playing the game right, or, oh, you shouldn't be looking stuff up because it'll ruin your first experience. Ultimately, it is up to you what you want to do and how you choose to have fun with this game. And with that, I bid you all a good day, and I will hope to see you all in the next video. And with that, bye-bye! Bye!